Hi everyone, and welcome back. Not long done the video of the relays, and what I decided to do is actually to finish off this series of videos by showing you how I set up the servos in the aluminium bracket and fit them to the baseboards. Okay, so everything in front of you is everything that we need, or everything that I use to do the job. Alright, so obviously first off here we have the servo itself, which needs we need to do a little bit of work to that before we can actually mount it to the bracket. And to do that work I need these cutters, which are the ones I use for cutting the track, and then obviously we need a ruler, we need a little hacksaw. I've got a junior hacksaw here. I tell you, a bigger hacksaw will be a lot better, I expect, but I can just about manage it with this one. We have piano wire, 0.6mm piano wire here. That was 5 meters of piano wire. They come in 1 meter lengths, and I think including postage that was £6. They're only about £2.75 something. The rest is made up of postage. Then we want this aluminium U-shape tube, which I got from Wix's. Now the best would be 15mm by 15mm by 15mm, but this is actually 15.5mm by 15.5 by 15.5. But just by squeezing in the sides, we can actually alter that to grip the solenoid. Did I just say solenoid? Sorry, the servo. And then to the piano wire is what we use as the actuator for the turnout. So with that we need to actually bend a part of it. So I have 2 pin nose pliers here, but obviously you can use whatever else you've got at hand, and a pair of wire cutters just to cut the piano wire. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 drill bits. We have a 2mm, we have a 3.2mm, we have a 5mm, and an 8mm. 10mm will be better, but I've got an 8mm there. And basically this is just to help clear out any swarf or burrs that occur. And the countersink, that's the same again. It's just when we drill through the MDF, just like to use that to clean out around the edges to make it nice, clean and tidy. And then we have a pin drill with, I think that's just less than a mil drill bit in, and we'll use that to mark where we need to drill the hole in the baseboard or to drill the 5mm hole. Okay, and of course a pencil and a set of turnouts that have already been wired and are ready to go down. Okay, oh, and of course in here we've got the screws. Now it's very important to pick which screws you want to use to secure the bracket to the baseboard, because the drill sizes here, or the hole to drill in the aluminium bracket, is going to be decided on what size screw you're going to use, and also the length of the bracket will decide on what sort of screws you're going to use. The bigger the screw, the longer the bracket will have to be. Okay, so next bit, we'll measure up the aluminium tube and cut it up and start drilling some holes. Back in a mo. Okay, so I've now got the aluminium tubing, and what we're going to do is measure it. Now I've made 2 types or 2 different lengths so far. I've done a 40mm, which was actually a bit too short, which meant that I had to use the mounting screws in basically towards the middle, and when I put the servo in, the servo was actually sat on top of the screws, which I decided wasn't a good idea. And then I tried 50mm, and that wasn't so bad. I could get the screws, the mounting screws at either end, but it's still really tight to play about to make sure that servo sits in the right position for the piano wire to go up through the mounting hole up to the point motor, up to the points. So what I'm going to do this time, I'm actually going to cut this one to 60mm, Okay, so here we are, we have 60. And that'll be our cut point. So what I'll do now, I'll now move this to my fabulous workbench, and we shall cut it with our lovely little junior hacksaw. Okay, catch you in a mo. Before cutting, what I've done, I've actually used a set square just to continue the line or put a proper line on round where I want to cut. Okay, now using this little junior hacksaw, we shall cut through this aluminium tubing. And there, done. Cut that through. Next bit will be to drill the holes in here for the mounting screws, and another hole for the piano wire. Okay, so we'll get the camera off the stand and we'll get that done. Right, okay, so well, using a little needle file, I've just cleaned up around the edges, taking any burrs off. Okay, so now what we'll do is, using the 2.3mm drill bit, we will drill a hole either end for the mounting screws. Okay, this is nice and all good. Right, that's one, and do the other. Two. There we are, with the two mounting holes, not perfectly straight, but it's a bit awkward trying to do it like reaching around the camera on the tripod. And now this is where I use the 8mm drill bit. Basics, just put into the hole, just turn it around a couple of times, and it will get rid of any burrs. Do it on both sides. And it really get rid of the burrs this side as well, so otherwise it will force it away from the baseboard. There, that's that done. Now what we need to do is make a 2mm hole next to one of these for the piano wire. Alright, so I'll just get the this 2mm drill bit into the drill. Okay, right. Now I have the 2mm drill bit in, and I'm going to drill the hole close to this mounting hole, but not too close to interfere when the screw goes in. So that's probably about here will be a good place. And drill. There. Perfect, done. And we'll do the same with that, using the 8mm drill piece. We'll just take out any burrs. Done. Now that is the bracket ready to accept the servo. Okay, so the next part is to prepare the servo. So what I'll try and do is actually try and do this on camera for you, if I can reach around. Alright, so the first thing, obviously we need the wire to drop out the bottom, because this is going to sit in here like so. But obviously this section is in the way, so that's what we need to cut out. So if I get the cutters I use for the track, because he's getting nice and close, so first thing, yeah, wire at the bottom. So it's the section at the top of the servo furthest away from the wire that we need to cut away. So we just get that in nice and tight. That's the first bit done. And then, yay, second bit, watch out for flying parts. Now that's quite nice and tidy, but we just finish that off with a craft knife. Okay, I'll take that out. Just very, very gently clean it up. I'll just make sure it sits nicely in the bracket and on the edges. Okay, so that is just about done. Yep, there we are, that'll do. Just putting that away. So this is now, the servo is now ready to sit in the bracket. First off, you want to get the actuator arm in the central position. But when we put this in, because I got the 15.5mm bracket, it's too big, that it'll just fall out. So what we can do to cure that is get a pair of pliers, okay, and just squeeze in the sides a bit all the way along. Nice and easy to do. Just do it very gently. Keep trying that. Still a bit loose. So we'll do it a bit more. There. Hopefully that will fit. Ooh, that's a bit tight. So you just play around with it so you can get it to fit there. Right. He's sat in there nice and tight, and you can just about make out the little 2mm hole that the piano wire to go through. Now this actually needs to move across a bit more, so just pass them across, and then that's too much, and then back there. Well, he sat in there nice and tight. Okay, and you can see we've got plenty of room at either end for the fixing screws. So 60mm to me is the perfect size. I like that. There's plenty of room to play about, particularly if you're installing these to turnouts that are already situated on the layout. So this should make it a lot easier to actually get this screwed and in place on the baseboard. So next thing will be the piano wire. Alright, so we'll just put that down. I'll just clean this off a minute, okay? Back in a moment. And clean this up. I don't like a messy workbench, particularly when we've got bits of aluminium everywhere. Okay, so piano wire. Right, the piano wire is obviously got to depend on how big your or how thick your baseboard is. Now I'm using 12mm, and I still like to leave quite a bit of length on my piano wire, so I can play about with it afterwards. So let's have a look. If we get the ruler there, for me I reckon 60mm again is more than enough. This is probably a bit too much, but believe me, it will help. So there, we've just cut off 60mm, or roughly 60mm. Now, to get it to fit or to sit in here in the actuator arm, we need to bend it, alright, which is pretty much like a Z bend. So we get the pin nose pliers and we'll bend it in one direction first, okay? I'm using the width of the pin nose pliers on the end to dictate where the bends are going to be. So that's the first bend. Okay, oop, just so it's not quite enough, bend it a little bit more. There, that will do. And then we grab hold of that in here. Alright, make it sure it's straight and bend the opposite way. So there, we have a Z bend. Alright, and now what we do, we take the servo out, and then I've been using the second hole down, so it's 1, 2. You get more torque, I believe, in there. And when it's in, just get it in place. Get through the last bit. There we go. Right, and now you can see it's in place, okay? And it'll hold firm in there. So the next stage is to pass it through the hole in the bracket and just fit the servo back in. God, that is tight. Sorry, there we are. So yeah, you now see the piano wire going through the hole and where it comes out the other side. Alright, and as you turn the servo, the piano wire moves. And that is this section done. Oh, there is one thing to be careful of, is making sure the servo's fitted in the correct position, or it's, you know, you just have to adjust it slightly to make sure that the piano wire does not rub on the screw that holds the actuator arm in place. Okay, so the next thing will be fitting this to the baseboard and the setter points. Alright, so I'll get that set up now and we'll go through that. Okay, we're back, and I've got a scrap piece of MDF here which I'm going to pretend is the baseboard. We have our turnout that's already wired up. I know, bizarre wiring or coloured wiring, but that's all I had when I actually did these ages ago. But as you know, for my layout I'll be using red and black and green for the frogs. So the first thing I need to do is get this centralised. Okay, so the way I do that is I use something as simple as fish plates or rail joiners. So I'll put the first one into here, and then the second one in the other side, like so. There we are, and once they're in, the turnout should be centralised, or pretty close to it. Alright, and then the next thing I do, I'll get a pencil, I'll get my hand underneath the tripod there, and I'll actually mark on the baseboard where the turnout is. Okay, this is so that when I remove it, I know exactly where to put it back. I expect everyone's got their own way of doing this, but I found this helps me greatly. Okay, so that is now marked out, and the first thing I want to do is put a mark where the piano wire will come up through the turnout. Okay, so in the hole there, I will use this little pin screwdriver or pin drill to mark the hole in the MDF. There, that should be that done. And the next thing I'll do is, obviously we want some holes drilled here for the power cables. So all I do is just mark it with a pencil either side. Now, because this was on the fiddle yard, it wasn't important exactly where they were, and again for the frog. There. So if I take that away, we have that marked for the piano wire, that for the power cables, and this one for the frog. Okay, so next thing to do is obviously to drill the holes, and that's where the 5mm drill bit comes in. That's for drilling the hole for the piano wire in there, and the 3.2mm is for drilling the holes through where the power cables are going to go and where the frog wire will go. Okay, so let's get and drill those, shall we? 3, 2, 1. Okay, right, I've now got the MDF on top of a piece of scrap wood so I don't go through into my craft mats. And what we'll do, we'll do the 5mm hole first, okay? So I'm just putting a 5mm drill bit into the drill, and that's what we'll drill here. Done. Alright, so now we'll use a 3.2mm drill bit. Just put that in. Try and get it in straight. There we go. And we'll do the remaining 3 holes. First, the 2 holes for the power cables. That's through, and second one, and lastly the one for the frog. Okay, right, that's that done. I don't need the drill anymore. I'll just clean off the dust from here. Okay, that's that cleaned off. But if you have a look, you see it's raised up a little bit where the drill bit's gone through, and on this side the same again. So we want to get that cleaned up. Now we can either just use the 8mm drill bit again, which works just as well. See, just clean these up. Oh sorry, not in camera, there. It sort of leaves a little bit of a countersink. Okay, we'll do this for all the holes, both sides. And lastly, the 5mm hole. Okay, so there. That's all the holes drilled. Now the next bit will be mounting the servo and the bracket underneath. Okay, now the first 9 turnouts I did on the fiddle yard, I actually had to fit these with the turnouts in situ. That was really hard, having to grovel around underneath the baseboards, and half the time I was led on my back with my shoulders up on the shelving underneath the fiddle yard. Really painful, and oh God, I don't want to be doing that again. So what I thought I'd do is that this time, as I go round, I'll be mounting these, or I'll mark out where I need them, and I'll mount these under the baseboard, and then when I come to lay the points, I lay the point directly on top of here, because it is quite hard to get this to come through that hole and get through that little itty bitty hole there. It is a real nightmare. So what we'll do now is that we'll get this fitted underneath. Alright, okay, right, baseboard turned over, and the scrap piece of wood I just happen to have a nice little hole in there. So if I can get this over that hole so that when we put this through it can rest there, look. Alright, and let's try and get this exactly in the middle of that hole, so you can move it around, you can feel it when it's not. Okay, so what we can do is hold that, press down, turn it over and have a look. No, not quite right. Right, hang on a minute, I know what to do. Okay, so to try and help us get this lined up in there, okay, well, for the piano wire, so we want to get that into there, and we want to make sure it's lined up perfectly, but as you can see you've got quite a bit of movement. So what I will do is try and draw some lines in the centre of the hole. Okay, so 1, and in the opposite direction. although that didn't look quite centralised, did it? Okay, and then what we'll do the same here. So we'll put a mark on there and a mark on this side. This is not exact, but it's not far off, and now we know that hole goes through the middle of there. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll put this down through and we line up the marks here and on the other side, alright, and here, there. And now what I'll do is put in the first of the securing screws. Okay, which I should really have a where are we? I will use a 2mm. I'm going to use a 1.5mm drill bit if this drill was secure. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to use a 1.5mm drill bit just to give me a pilot hole. Okay. Line that up on there. Do for the other one. Now that's just to give the screw a helping hand to go in, otherwise it can start sliding around everywhere. So let's get that into there, and then hopefully there's the pilot hole. Put it in gently to start with, and the other side. There's pilot hole. And there we are. That is in place. Here we go. If I put the servo central, you'll see it's not bad, is it? That's quite nicely placed. Let's get that straight. There we are. Hope you can see that. So that's the piano wire in place. There's the servo and the bracket in place and the piano wire. Now then, we need to put the turnouts back on. Alright, I'll just sit that down on the side. And this is obviously where it comes in handy, where I've outlined everything. And we need to put the wires through. Thread them through the holes. And obviously when it's on the layout you won't have the block underneath. We'll just pull these through. Bit cack-handed. Right. And now what we can do is thread the piano wire through the hole, put it on the side. Ooh. There. It's in place, so I'll just pull the wires down again. And there. Track is in place. Line it back up with the markings we originally had. And hey presto, just tack it down into position wherever you want to put the tacks, and that's it. That's one turnout done. And if we move the servo underneath, nice and simple. And obviously I expect that what some of us do is that we take the spring out of here, sorry, out of there, then you won't get the snap. But to be honest, I might be leaving mine in from now on, because I think it actually helps to make sure you get a good connection when it swings over. Okay, so everyone, that's it. That is how to fit the servo to the bottom of your baseboard and actuate your turnouts. Okay, I hope that was really helpful. The more you do, the easier it gets. Believe me, it really does, and it can be quite fun afterwards. But it's up to you all to experiment and do it your own way. This is just a little hint on how, or one method of doing it. Okay, so anyway, time for me to have some more of my beer and get up to the house and see what's for lunch. Alright, so you all have a fabulous Sunday, or an even better week, and the next video will be the fiddle yard and installing the Megapoint Controller system and the relays. Alright, really look forward to that, and thank you all for sticking with me, and catch you again soon. Bye bye.